Among all the nations around the world, North Korea is well known to be a place that has some of the most intense rules and regulations, so much so that they are cut off from the world with no telling of what happens within. Today we will look at illegal photos and videos that secretly smuggled out of North Korea. Not every escape attempt from North Korea ends in a success, but some end in tragedy. A heartbreaking video showed a group trying to escape North Korea by rushing into a Japanese consulate. If they made it inside, they would be safe. 3 men managed to get through, but a woman and her 2-year-old daughter were caught. The police dragged them away as they screamed in terror. In North Korea, escaping meant life in prison or worse. Experts believe they faced certain execution. This young girl might have spent her last moments in fear, never knowing the freedom her family had risked everything for. Interrogation room. Breaking North Korea's strict rules was never just a mistake, it was a nightmare. Leaked footage from a North Korean interrogation room showed the harsh reality. A woman who tried to escape to China sat trembling as guards questioned her. She wasn't alone. Another clip showed a blindfolded man with his hands tied behind his back, forced to stand before portraits of North Korea's leaders. Another woman, caught trying to flee, faced terrifying threats from guards. Humanitarian groups believed many of these prisoners were executed. These rare clips revealed a truth North Korea wanted to keep hidden. This happened every day, far from the world's eyes. Secret trial. Watching a movie might seem harmless, but in North Korea, it could mean prison. A secretly recorded public trial showed just how extreme the government's control was. A man stood accused of a serious crime, not theft, not violence, but watching 4 South Korean films and showing them to friends. This so-called anti-communist act led to imprisonment, with the trial serving as a warning to others. The government feared that foreign films could expose citizens to outside ideas, breaking their strict control over information. The footage was leaked by an activist named Sherry, who escaped North Korea years ago. According to her, those who watched the films likely ended up in brutal prison camps. Banned shows. Have you ever thought watching the wrong show could cost you your life? A shocking video obtained by a South Korean think tank showed 2 North Korean teenagers standing before a massive crowd. Their crime was watching and sharing South Korean dramas. The judge sentenced them to 12 years of hard labor, using the trial as a warning to others. But this is just one part of North Korea's extreme information control. Even their TV and radio are strictly controlled. One man in Canada accidentally taped into North Korean state TV.
My curiosity, it was like, is this really coming out of North Korea?
Showing endless praise for Kim Jong-un. From cartoons to news, everything revolves around the leader. Experts say North Koreans are brainwashed from childhood, a fed propaganda. Anyone caught watching outside content faces brutal punishment, just like those teens. Fake elections. For North Koreans, elections are just a show. Everyone votes, but there's only one choice: Kim Jong-un. The government claims a 100% voter turnout, with every citizen casting a ballot. But there's a catch. Each district has only one candidate, handpicked by the state. There's no real competition, no opposition. It's a staged event to make the country look democratic to the world. But there's a hidden purpose too. These fake elections help the government track its citizens. If someone doesn't show up to vote, authorities investigate them. Meanwhile, North Korean state media calls it a festival of democracy, but in reality, it's just another way to control the people. Traffic ladies.
힘들었습니다. 그래서 어거가는 사람들과 뭐든
Pyongyang streets are not just about traffic, they're about image. In North Korea's capital, 300 young women work as traffic ladies, carefully chosen for their looks. They wear striking uniforms and stand at intersections, directing cars with precision. But outside Pyongyang, traffic control is done by men. These women became a tourist attraction, with their presence making the city look orderly. But there's a catch. While men can work as long as they want, these women must retire at 26. Just like everything else in North Korea, even traffic control is about control and appearances. Counterfeit cash. In the 1980s, North Korea faced strict international sanctions that blocked its trade with other countries. But the regime found a way to bypass the restrictions by producing counterfeit US dollars. These fake bills, known as super dollars, were nearly perfect copies, making them difficult to detect. Using these counterfeit notes, North Korea secretly bought goods and funneled money into illegal programs, including advanced weapon development. Even today, reports suggest that North Korea may still be involved in underground financial operations. Some secrets don't stay hidden forever, but when it comes to North Korea, the truth is always buried under layers of deception. Border shootings. A chilling video from the Chinese side of the Yalu River revealed a brutal truth about North Korea's escape attempts. A mother and daughter ran across the frozen river hoping to reach safety, but before they could cross, North Korean border guards opened fire. The mother collapsed on the ice, motionless. North Korea's border is one of the most dangerous in the world. Soldiers have strict orders to shoot defectors, ensuring the regime's control remains unchallenged. Even those who make it to China often face capture and forced repatriation. This footage is more than just a tragedy. It's proof of a regime that will go to any length to keep its people trapped. Famine crisis. The situation in North Korea right now is very dire. People have been facing shortages of food for over 2 years now. Experts fear the country is facing its worst famine since the 1990s, with reports of starvation deaths increasing. While Chinese aid provides some relief, it is not enough to feed the entire population. Kim Jong-un was recently seen inspecting flooded farmlands, a sign of the worsening crisis. Strict government controls on food distribution have left many struggling to find even basic meals. With closed borders and limited aid, the true scale of the disaster remains unclear. With North Korea tightening its borders and rejecting foreign aid, this silent disaster may only get worse. Border barriers. Escaping North Korea is nearly impossible. The government knows many want to leave, so they have built extreme barriers to stop them. Along the border with China, barbed wire fences stand tall, some even electrified to deliver a deadly shock. Yet, against all odds, some have made it out. One man, desperate for freedom, swam across the sea wearing a diving suit and fins. He avoided detection by slipping through a drainage tunnel. South Korea later admitted their security failed, just as it had in past incidents when North Koreans secretly crossed in both directions. For most, however, there is no way out. Escape isn't just dangerous, it's a deadly gamble with fate. Kim Jong-un's return. Kim Jong-un has reappeared after weeks of absence, inspecting a hospital construction site in Pyongyang. He criticized officials for poor planning, but insisted the project must be completed on time. However, with strict border controls limiting materials, many doubt this is possible. Shortly after, he held a closed-door military meeting with top officials. While nuclear weapons were not mentioned, experts believe North Korea is quietly preparing for upcoming US-South Korea military exercises. Kim's sudden disappearances and returns always raise questions. Whether he's managing internal issues or making a calculated move, one thing remains certain: North Korea operates in secrecy, and the outside world is left guessing. Propaganda control. North Korean propaganda is known for its extreme portrayal of the outside world, especially the United States. State-run television has aired footage claiming that Americans live in extreme poverty, with no homes, drinking coffee made from melted snow, and sleeping in body bags. These false narratives serve a clear purpose: to convince North Koreans that their country is the best place to live and that the outside world is suffering. With strict control over information, most citizens never get to see the reality beyond their borders. In a country where even a single foreign movie can be a crime, the government ensures its people only see what it wants them to believe, and for many, this controlled reality is all they will ever know. Nuclear ambitions. North Korea's illegal nuclear program has been expanding for decades, violating international agreements and sanctions. Secret testing sites, hidden enrichment facilities, and advanced missile developments all point to one goal: power. The country has withdrawn from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and continues producing weapons-grade materials, increasing its stockpile of nuclear warheads. While millions of North Koreans struggle with poverty, the government pours resources, public funds, and even counterfeit money into these projects. As As seen before, the military parades and weapons displays are not just for show. They are a statement of dominance, funded at the cost of the people's well-being. The push for nuclear advancement keeps the regime in control, ensuring no outside force can challenge its rule. North Korea's weapons aren't just tools of war, they're the price of power. Black market survival. North Korea's strict government control over industries has forced people to rely on black markets for survival. These illegal markets supply essential goods that are either scarce or heavily restricted. A 2008 report from Serawan City's Taesong Market showed vendors openly selling state-assigned items like school uniforms, military outfits, and cosmetics. However, banned products were hidden in warehouses behind homes to evade crackdowns. Even gasoline, one of the hardest commodities to obtain, was sold in these markets, secretly acquired from government agencies and state-owned companies. Just like North Korea's counterfeit dollar operation, the black market system depends on exploiting state resources. Whether it's fake money or smuggled goods, the regime's corruption ensures that illegal networks continue to thrive under its watch. Golden statues over people. In North Korea, statues of the supreme leader hold more value than its struggling citizens. The government spends vast resources building massive gold monuments while the people face poverty and food shortages. These statues are symbols of forced loyalty, with citizens expected to bow before them in public displays of worship. Meanwhile, global powers are working to impose new sanctions on North Korea after its latest ICBM test. The UN Security Council is close to an agreement, with the US and China leading discussions. However, Russia's involvement remains uncertain, and tensions with the US could delay decisions. As the world debates its next move, North Korea continues to prioritize golden statues over its collapsing economy, cementing its leader's image while its people suffer in silence. Banned happiness. In North Korea, even a smile can be a crime. Citizens were banned from showing any signs of happiness for 11 days to mark the 10-year anniversary of Kim Jong-il's death. The strict mourning period included a ban on laughter, alcohol, and any form of entertainment. Those caught breaking the rules face severe punishment. During the memorial service, Kim Jong-un appeared solemn, reinforcing the atmosphere of forced grief. Kim Jong-il, who ruled North Korea from 1994 until his death in 2011, left behind a legacy of fear and control. In a country where mourning is mandatory and joy is illegal, even grief is dictated by the state, turning everyday life into a carefully staged performance. Tourist risks. Visiting the most secretive country in the world comes with serious risks. Tourists and foreign visitors have been sentenced to years of hard labor for actions as small as removing a poster or carrying religious materials. Some were accused of spying without evidence, forced to confess in staged trials. Many endured harsh prison conditions, while others were used as bargaining chips in political negotiations. Even after their release, their time in captivity left lasting scars. This isn't just about enforcing laws, it's about control, power, and making an example out of anyone who steps out of line. Haircut. Think choosing a new hairstyle is tough. There is a world where your options are already decided for you. No trendy cuts, no bold colors, just the same old styles everywhere you look. Well, that's exactly how it works in North Korea. Walk into a salon and instead of picking any look you want, you're handed a list of just 28 government-approved hairstyles. For men, it's all about short and neat. For women, there's a little variety, but don't get too excited. No wild styles allowed. Why the strict rules? It's not just about looks. This haircut policy is actually about control, tradition, and keeping outside influences at bay. So next time you struggle to pick a style, just be glad you still have a choice. Phone control. Owning a phone feels normal to us, but in North Korea, it's a different story. In North Korea, cell phones exist, But they are not a tool for freedom. The regime controls every call, every movement, and every person through them. There's no internet, no international calls, just constant surveillance. Activists risk their lives to smuggle real phones across the border, allowing brief, dangerous calls. Even a simple "I miss you" could mean prison or worse. Technology should connect people, but in North Korea, it tightens the regime's grip. Sometimes advancements don't bring progress, but they bring more control. Hidden reality. North Korea shows the world what it wants them to see, but what lies under the surface? In 2014, state media broadcasted footage of disabled performers singing and dancing, claiming life had improved for them, but defectors tell a different story, one of silence and disappearance. A former North Korean doctor revealed a scary truth. Disabled babies are taken away and never seen again. The regime tightly controls its image, masking the reality behind carefully staged events. What they show is one thing. What happens behind closed doors is another. In North Korea, the truth isn't just hidden, but it's erased. Manipulated time. North Korea doesn't just control its people well, it controls time itself. Their calendar isn't like the rest of the world's. It follows the Yucha system, introduced in 1997. But here's the twist. Its starting point isn't an event or a revolution. It begins with the birth of Kim Il-sung in 1912. That year is marked as Juche 1, cementing him as their eternal president. But they didn't stop there. In 2015, North Korea even changed its time zone, pushing clocks 30 minutes behind Japan. Every second in this country is a reminder of who holds power, with 71 public holidays glorifying their leaders. Brutal punishments. North Korea's grip on power is ruthless, and it doesn't tolerate mistakes. Reports claim that Hyun Yong-chol, the country's defense chief, was executed in April. His crime? Nodding off during a meeting and talking back to Kim Jong-un. But this wasn't an ordinary execution. Witnesses say he was shot with an anti-aircraft gun in front of hundreds. This isn't the first time high-ranking officials have disappeared. In 2013, Kim had his own uncle executed. The regime controls everything, even life and death. In a country where power is absolute, one wrong move can mean the end. Forced grief. Grief is a deeply personal experience, something that comes naturally when a loved one passes, isn't it? But in North Korea, mourning isn't a choice. When Kim Jong-il passed away, the streets were filled with people who had no choice but to cry loudly, wail, and even beat their chests. Crying wasn't just an expression of sorrow, it was an expectation. The government required it, turning mourning into a display of loyalty rather than a personal emotion. It's a strange reality where the human right to grieve freely is replaced by a forced demonstration of allegiance. Controlled education. In North Korea, education is free, but it's far from what many might expect. From a very young age, students are taught to uphold the government system and are fed a version of history shaped by the regime. They memorize exaggerated stories about the Kim dynasty, learning only what the state deems important. The internet is off limits, so no outside influence or differing viewpoints are allowed. Students are confined to a single subject system, no room for critical thinking or independent thought. The curriculum serves to reinforce the regime's control, ensuring the next generation follows the path laid out for them.
No tuition fee.
It's free.
Yes, it is free.
There's a lot of students who would.
Secret tunnels.
And we're going down. It's very steep.
What if there were hidden paths beneath our feet, waiting to reveal a dark and secretive plan? These tunnels, discovered after a defector from North Korea came forward, were built to enter South Korea.
Infiltration tunnel coming up.
Steep and damp, they remain a chilling reminder of the silent tension that still exists between the two nations. The fact that these tunnels lay dormant for so long without being found adds a layer of mystery. With so many secrets buried underground, it's clear that the stakes are much higher than we realize. These tunnels are more than just pathways, but they're a warning.
You gotta duck when you go through here.
Empty airports.
I am the only one
in the airport right now.
Ever wondered what it's like to be the only one in an airport? In North Korea, this is a rare but eerie reality. With almost no passengers and barely any staff, the airport feels like a ghost town.
No check-in staff, no people at all.
The country's strict borders mean locals don't fly out, and foreign visitors are few. If you're lucky enough to board a flight on the country's only airline, there's a good chance you'll have the plane all to yourself. It's a bizarre experience that feels like something out of a dystopian movie, where isolation isn't just a feeling, it's a way of life.
In a giant, empty airport.
Smuggled crabs. What if the biggest secrets are hidden right under our noses, slipping through borders and bans? Across the river from North Korea in northeast China, there's a market filled with smuggled North Korean crabs. Even though the UN banned the export of seafood from North Korea, people still find ways to bring it in. Some even float bags of crabs across the river. China helps by buying a lot of goods from North Korea, like oil and food, which keeps the country's economy running. Even with the bans, the trade keeps going, and some businesses are still making money from smuggling these goods. Martial arts display. What if you could break concrete with nothing but your hands and head? During a weapons exhibition in Pyongyang, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a jaw-dropping martial arts demonstration. Men, some wearing military uniforms and others shirtless, broke through concrete blocks using only their fists or heads. This event featured aerobatic flights, highlighting North Korea's bold display of strength and military prowess. It was a powerful reminder of the country's focus on showing off its capabilities on the world stage. It felt like another way for Kim to reinforce his control, not just over his people, but in his ongoing power struggle with the international community. Human trafficking. Not every dark secret stays hidden forever, especially in a world where the truth finds its way out, no matter how hard some try to bury it. For the 20th year in a row, the US has placed North Korea among the world's worst nations for human trafficking. The 2022 Trafficking in Persons report accused the regime of using forced labor in prison camps, exploiting workers overseas, and trafficking women into China. Despite these claims, North Korea dismissed the findings as absolute nonsense, shifting the blame elsewhere. But can a secret this big really be ignored? Olympic cheerleaders. A group of cheerleaders in perfect unison, all chanting for victory, made waves at the 2018 Winter Olympics. During the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, the first unified Korean women's ice hockey team made their debut, and they weren't alone. A group of 200 North Korean cheerleaders, known as the Army of Beauties, packed the stands. Dressed in matching red jackets and winter hats, they performed a stunning display of coordinated chants to encourage the team. But behind the excitement was a strict requirement. Every victory was to be dedicated to Kim Jong-un, with athletes publicly thanking the North Korean leader for their success. Ceremonial soldiers. Behind North Korea's massive military force lies a lesser-known and mysterious aspect of its army, rarely seen by the outside world. North Korea's military is one of the largest in the world, with over 7 million members, most of whom are conscripts with little choice. Among these forces is a secretive group of women who don't serve in combat. Instead, their role is ceremonial, where they wield large katas and march in formation to entertain the nation's leaders. This unique element reveals how North Korea combines power with performance, showing an unusual side of its military culture. Mandatory portrait. When a reporter steps inside a North Korean home, what seems like an ordinary setting reveals an unsettling reality. The reporter entered a standard apartment in Pyongyang. One feature stood out, a large portrait of Kim Jong-il. These portraits weren't just for decoration, they were mandatory in every home. The family was careful to keep it spotless and properly displayed, as any neglect could result in severe consequences. The government insisted that citizens respect and care for these images, viewing any mistake as a sign of disrespect toward the late leader. Such carelessness could attract harsh penalties, even public punishment. This mandatory display of portraits was a constant reminder of how deeply the regime controlled daily life in North Korea. Cyber attacks. The Lazarus Group, a hacking group linked to North Korean intelligence, has been behind some of the most notorious cyber attacks. They hacked Sony Pictures, stole $81 million from Bangladesh Bank, and spread the WannaCry ransomware globally. Their attacks targeting major corporations, financial institutions, and even hospitals are part of a larger scheme to generate money for North Korea's nuclear program. With a carefully planned strategy to launder stolen funds, the group has exploited loopholes in unregulated areas like casinos. Their activities highlight the dangerous potential of state-sponsored cybercriminals, and their reach continues to affect global security. Forced labor abroad.
휴식이
휴일. 막 신날이 딸리고.
North Korea profits from forced labor overseas, sending thousands of workers to countries like Russia and China under strict government control. These workers endure harsh conditions, often in isolated areas, with most of their earnings funneled directly to the regime. A report from a Siberian logging camp revealed North Korean laborers forced to work for over 10 years with little to no pay. They lived in remote forests under constant surveillance, unsure when they would return home. When asked about days off, they seemed confused, as if rest was never an option. Like North Korea's black market and counterfeit money schemes, forced labor is another way the regime exploits its people for financial gain. The government's grip is so tight that even outside its borders, workers remain trapped in its control.
찍은 사람들마다
아니
내 이게 오는도
Name ban. We've all been inspired by names of important people throughout history, but in North Korea, a name can have a much different impact. Recently, reports have surfaced that women who share the same name as Kim Jong-un's daughter, Ju-ae, are being forced to change their identities. Kim Jong-un's daughter, believed to be about 10 years old, has become the center of a controversial move by the regime to isolate her from the rest of the country. The local government has issued orders for women named Ju-ae to change their names, a clear attempt to further separate the leader's family from the public. It's a reminder that Kim Jong wants to control even the smallest details of his citizens' lives. Fashion restrictions. In North Korea, even something as simple as clothing can carry a hidden meaning. The government has banned blue jeans, considering them a symbol of Western influence and imperialism. Instead, citizens are required to wear traditional Korean attire, like the hanbok, reinforcing their strict control over everyday life. This regulation keeps the people in line, ensuring no outside influence seeps in. Meanwhile, the ruling class enjoys the freedom to wear whatever they choose, reflecting the deep divide between the leaders and the general population. It's a quiet but powerful reminder of how much is hidden from the outside world. Prison camps. North Korea's prison camps remain one of the most terrifying human rights violations in the world. Those who oppose the regime don't just face punishment, their entire bloodline is condemned. If one person is arrested, their children and even future grandchildren are doomed to a lifetime behind bars. One survivor born inside a camp had no idea the world existed beyond its fences. He didn't know about America or even that the earth was round. To him, guards were simply born to carry guns, and prisoners were born to suffer. Escape never crossed his mind because he believed there was no world outside. With an estimated 15,000 prisoners in just one camp, North Korea's system ensures that for many, freedom is a concept they will never even understand. Illegal oil trade. Some secrets are hidden in the shadows, but others float right in the open sea, unnoticed by most. Until now, a Chinese company based in Singapore reportedly delivered oil to North Korea, breaking UN sanctions. The New York Times tracked the ship Diamond 8, revealing secret transfers near Taiwan before docking in North Korea. US surveillance caught similar transfers on camera, exposing illegal ship-to-ship oil deals. Despite repeated warnings, the North continues to fuel its operations under the radar. But when the evidence is this clear, how long can the world turn a blind eye? Maybe for North Korea, breaking the rules is just business as usual.